All right, let's talk about a number that kind of haunts every entrepreneur, that massive startup failure rate. But we're going to zero in on a really specific group, student founders. Because as you'll see, the way their ventures fail is, well, it's a completely different game.
You've heard this number thrown around a million times, right? 90%. 9 out of every 10 startups will fail. It's the sobering reality check for the entire industry, for anyone out there trying to build something from scratch.
But here's the thing. When we're talking about a company that was born in a dorm room or dreamed up in a university lab, that 90% figure, it doesn't even begin to tell the real story. The reasons they fail are profoundly different, and honestly, they often have less to do with the business itself.
So to really get why student startups are such a unique beast, we have to start with a baseline. Let's first take a look at the standard survival curve for all new businesses.
You see, failure isn't like flipping a switch. It's more of a slow burn. About a fifth of startups don't even make it past the first year. By year 5, half of them are gone. And that 5-year mark is absolutely critical. It's usually the point where that first big chunk of funding has run dry and the pressure to actually be profitable gets very, very real.
Okay, so how does this play out for student founders? Well, they're staring down that exact same 90% failure rate, but the story behind why they fail, that's where things get really fascinating.
And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the matter. Your typical startup dies because the market just says, no thanks, or, the bank account hits zero. But a student startup, so often, it fails simply because the founder decides to pull the plug. They just walk away. It's not really market failure. It's a conscious choice to leave the game.
Yeah, this thing actually has a name, the graduation day hurdle. Just picture it for a second. You've got your diploma in one hand and this pre-revenue venture fueled by ramen and late nights in the other. Then, some big company dangles a secure, 6-figure job offer in front of you. What do? For most people, the opportunity cost is just way too high. The choice is pretty obvious.
But, okay, what about the students who do say no to the job offer? The ones who try to push past that graduation day hurdle? What are the hard, data-backed reasons their ventures still collapse? Let's dig into the breakdown from CB Insights. Think of this chart as an autopsy report for thousands of failed startups. You see the usual suspects, right? Running out of cash, having the wrong team, those are major factors. But just look at that biggest piece of the pie. The single biggest killer, by a long shot, is no market need.
Let that sink in for a second. 42%. In nearly half of all startup failures, the number one reason is a complete, total, and utter lack of market need. Nobody actually wanted the thing they built.
And this is what we call the 42% trap. Student founders are especially vulnerable to falling into it. Why? Well, they're often operating inside this academic bubble. They can fall in love with a cool piece of technology from a class project and then spend months building it out without ever asking the single most important question: will anyone at all, actually pay me for this?
This leads us straight into 2 of the biggest myths you hear in student entrepreneurship. The first is that all you need is a genius idea. The second is that the key to success is just grabbing a dream team of your smartest college friends. Well, let me tell you, the data paints a very, very different picture.
Check this out. This research comes from Idealab, and they analyzed 200 companies to see what actually determines success. And it's kind of shocking. The idea, the thing everyone obsesses over, only accounted for 28% of the outcome. The number one factor, at a whopping 42%, timing. Just timing. Is the market ready for your product? Are consumers ready? Students often launch based on when the academic calendar ends, not when the market is ready, and that can be absolutely fatal.
And what about that dream team of your college buddies? Well, this chart shows the experience gap in action. First-time founders, and let's be real, that's most students, they have about an 18% success rate. But a founder who's had a successful exit before, their odds literally jump to 30%. That industry network, that knowledge of all the little pitfalls, it's just invaluable. So let me give you a perfect real-world example of this not the right team problem. A startup called Collage from the University of Michigan had an amazing product that students absolutely loved, but their team was missing a crucial set of skills. And this quote from the founder's post-mortem, it just says it all. The students loved the product, but guess what?
They weren't the customers. The real customers were the university advising departments, these big bureaucratic organizations. And the team had zero B2B sales experience, so they were ghosted because they simply didn't know how to sell to the person who actually held the purse strings.
So, this all sounds a bit bleak, I know. But the crucial question is, how can student founders actually avoid these traps? If you synthesize all the data we've just looked at, it points to 5 clear, fatal flaws they absolutely need to overcome.
And here they are. Number 1, the validation deficit, building something in a bubble. 2, the experience gap, having a team of all friends with the same blind spots. 3, the graduation day exit, treating your startup like a summer project, not a real company. 4, unit economic failure, chasing vanity metrics like users instead of profitable customers. And 5, market timing error, launching because your class ended, not because the world was actually ready for your product.
So we'll leave you with this question. For any founder watching, student or not, it's not about having a great idea. Your venture solves a problem, great. But who? Who specifically is willing to pay you to solve it? And if you don't know the answer to that question, why on earth haven't you spoken to them today? That's the first step to beating the odds.